Welcome to Peak Conversations. I'm Mike Despo.
I'm Jody Waldron.
And we're basically career services. We're the career services team here at SCC, and we're here to talk about Peak. And the first of this Peak Conversation series is here to talk about, we're here to talk about resume writing. First of all, Jody, what is Peak?
Professional exploration and knowledge.
Peak is a campus-wide, multi-year initiative to make sure that you, everybody at SCC, every student across our curriculum has the tools and the knowledge that they know to explore professions and to make good decisions, informed decisions, and launch their careers, right, Jody?
That's right.
All right. Well, you'll be hearing from Jody and I throughout the semester during the Peak Conversation series. I believe you're going to talk about big interview and interview preparation. I'm here today to talk about resume writing, and so we'll progress right into our slideshow from here. Thank you, Jody.
Great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, this Peak presentation is a conversation, so stop me anywhere that you have questions, and we'll be glad to kind of build those right in. But the first pretty important area of career development is resume writing. It's important for a number of different reasons. First of all, it's timely. Many of you are getting ready for summer work-based learning or internships, or you're about to graduate with a certification or a degree, and you want to use a resume at our job fairs that are coming up just a little bit later in the spring to look for a job. Well, that begs the question, why is resume writing important, and what is a resume? To begin with, this is a short definition. This is the best I could come up with because it's inclusive. A lot of people have a simplistic version of a resume or a vision of a resume. We all know that it's a list of things, that it's a piece of paper that we use to get a job, but I want everybody to think about it a little bit more comprehensively than that. It's paper still. You carry a paper copy of a resume to a job fair or to an employer interview or anything like that. And then also, many times it's digital. You know, it's attached to a form, it's sent as a PDF attached to an email upon request of an employer, or it's otherwise built into the internet. And so it's often digital, and it's often online as well, whether it's LinkedIn fields or some other kind of application text box. There are a lot of representations of resumes. So look at resumes a little bit broader than you might have otherwise. The italicized word there, strategically, is important. It strategically presents select information in a way that connects all of these dots between who you are and really what you want. So let's talk about what those dots are. First of all, obviously, experience should be a connected point on the resume. What have you done? Is it related service learning, internships, related customer service work or other type of industry-specific or professionally specific work, a clinical or 3 in a health sciences major? What constitutes your experience? And it all belongs on the resume in different ways. Also, obviously, education and credentials. A lot of people put these way down low on a resume, and I want to see every SCC student and alumni putting them near the top because it's probably one of the most important boxes that employers want to check. Where have you studied? What have you accomplished here? What certifications and degrees do you have that make you a better candidate for a specific job? Then last but not least, accomplishments and skills. When we talk about experience, we don't want to just represent job descriptions. We want action items, action verbs, bullet points describing things that you accomplished on the job. Are you a great employee, or did you win Employee of the Month? Were you evaluated well and retained or promoted? If so, put that there. Also, skills, and skills is really a broader category than people realize. Let's talk about skills. There are hard skills and soft skills, both of which are important. First of all, hard skills, don't think necessarily about difficulty. Hard skills could be difficult, or they could be easy, or anything in the middle. But when you think about hard skills, I want you to think about concrete skills, something that I can see you do, maybe that you can be trained to do on the job. Some fields require 2 or more years of extensive training in a hard skill set like nursing, for example, or automotive systems, engineering, technology, stuff like that. But hard skills typically will use tools, processes and protocols and procedures that can be practiced and learned, and that live in the concrete world. Now, many times employers will talk about soft skills. There are 3 things that employers say that they want typically when you ask them. One is frequently a related degree or education. Not always. Sometimes they're very happy to have a transferable degree or anything that shows that you're an educatable, trainable human being with some of those skills. But first of all, your education and credentials. Second, experience. And that can look like a lot of different things, and I'll show you how to capture those on the resume. But related experience is most important, and a resume should strategically show you how to maximize that. And then unrelated experience should not be categorized just as employment or other work. It can be described in ways that transfer skills to the related area that you're applying to do. So the third thing that employers really will say that they want are soft skills. What do they mean by that? Hard skills are concrete, so soft skills are abstract. I can't necessarily see your soft skill set. You can tell me you've got it, but really the most effective way to prove that you have that is to talk about those jobs in ways that showcase soft skills. So what are soft skills? What are abstract skills? Think about a pyramid or a hierarchy of skills. This is my way of making sense of them. And so if anybody's heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need food, clothing, shelter down at the bottom and all the way up to purpose and self-actualization at the top. The top can't exist unless you take care of those bottom tiers. In a hierarchy of soft skills, we have things like reliability, work ethic, just the ability to show up, flexibility, the practice of civility in the workplace, things like that. Basic skill sets that are critical for any employee in any setting. And so you need to talk about these kinds of things. In the middle might be communication, problem solving. I'm just going to put problem solving here. Things like this. So other types of skill sets that maybe you've been able to practice in college in unrelated jobs. Then at the top would be things like this. I'm just going to say top tier soft skills. Up here we've got presentation skills, complex problem-solving skills, the ability for a nurse to de-escalate a situation, or for an information technology person to do complex troubleshooting to diagnose problems, for a marketing or business major to provide superior customer service and train other people. So these are soft skill sets. And when you're describing your experience, you want to maximize that related experience, but in your resume, when you're describing unrelated jobs, instead of talking about those internal protocols to that job that don't relate to your goals, talk about these skill sets. So be sure to include soft skills and hard skills in your resume. All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty and talk about what a resume might look like. Now, in terms of formatting a resume, in terms of length, in terms of content, really a whole lot of aspects of resumes are dictated by some conventions. And if you go to a website like Career Builder, or if you Google it, you'll come up with tons of top 10 resume writing tips or things to avoid, or templates that try to tell you exactly what a resume should look like. And I'm here to tell you that there are a lot of right ways to write resumes, but fewer ironclad rules than you might think. So I'm going to give you several just to navigate that process. One is consistency. I like, as you'll see, putting locations and dates on the right side. I'll bold headings, I'll italicize titles. These are really formatting things, but my way is not the only way. The rule here is to follow a point of consistency. If you have one date on the right, make sure that you have them all on the right. If you italicize one title, italicize them all. So take a close eye towards consistency when you write a resume. Great. The other next rule, so to speak, that you'll hear a lot, so I'm going to address it, is one-page resumes are desirable for most professions. You'll still have some recruiters or employers or educators or career counselors who might say, yeah, one-page resume is the rule for a college student. And for many of you, it is. You should never have a multi-page resume be your goal. However, I talked to a lot of employers, several generations of employers now have told me, Mike, when I see resumes by new college students or graduating college students, new graduates especially, I really don't care if it's more than a page, as long as the most pertinent stuff is on the first half of the first page. That's the first thing they'll look at. The second thing is employers don't want students to omit things or delete things like related clinical experience or other work experience that transfers some of these soft skills that are still important. So it may be okay to have a two-page resume, but only if it's intentional and if there's a real reason to do so. So that's a little bit of a equivocation there, but don't feel like you're trapped into a one-page resume. You're also welcome to come see me or Jody in Career Services, and we can help you with that formatting. Here's the biggest rule that I can come up with. It definitely applies. Many employers, I think 48% of employers in 2012, according to one survey, said that if somebody has a typo, or a misspelled word, or major formatting errors, carelessness, they'll basically omit you, delete you as a candidate. They'll move on to another candidate. So that can end your candidacy, and it can certainly damage it. So if you do nothing else, be sure to proofread very carefully, bring it to a career counselor and Career Services, and we're happy to look at that resume for you. The last thing I'll say is, and I believe this strongly, you're not going to probably see this elsewhere because a lot of people want you to use their templates, but I strongly advise against using an automated template. It's the first thing that people do when they're building a resume. They're easy to find. I'm going to go find a template. I'm going to put my stuff into it. Bang, I've got a great resume. But there are several reasons not to do so. One, a resume is a living document. It should be something that grows with your experience. It should be something that can be customized and changed depending on different jobs that you're applying for, or maybe different sectors within your industry, certainly different types of employers. And so it should be flexible. Templates are very rigid. It's hard to add information to some templates, and it's hard to move it around. Another reason for that, frankly, is that a plain blank Microsoft Word document can be more elegant than most templates and doesn't bring in a lot of problematic formatting that can cause you trouble down the road. So avoid using an automated template. Some other basic rules or guidelines really would be to follow a reverse chronology. By far the most conventional way to represent information on a resume isn't categorized by different skills, although you may have some categories, some skill categories on your resume, but it's to put the most recent information higher and then go down. So it's, 2020 would be here, 2019 a little lower, and so on. That does cause some problems or some challenges or some dilemmas. So what happens if a student has a fantastic clinical experience or an internship that highly relates to his or her career goal and job application, but more recently than that, they've carried on in another job to make ends meet or to pay the bills, and it's not related. It's more recent. And so a student might say, well, Mike, you said be consistent, so it has to go higher than the internship or the clinical or the related work. And my answer to that's no. Intuitively, the answer to that's no, but how do you navigate that consistency thing and still have it in a reverse chronology? And the way you do that, the way anybody might address that, is to have more than one experience section on the resume. Have a related experience, or even better, because bold words are, because headings are an opportunity to put keywords in bold. So I'd qualify that experience, healthcare experience, or related student clinical experience, or any other type of engineering technology experience, and put that internship or that work-based learning or that clinical and any other related work in that section in a reverse chronology. Then subordinate it, make it lower, but have a next section, and don't call it unrelated experience. Maybe call it other customer service experience, and put that job waiting tables, or delivering pizza, or landscaping, or housekeeping, or any of the kinds of jobs that we have as students, or in between one part of our lives and the next. That can go under that type of experience, but point in a way that transfers skills, first in the heading and then in how you describe that experience. All right, there's some other points are to use word. I made that point, and if you do, in case I forget later, when you're sending this as a digital attachment, as an attachment to an email to any employer, be sure to save that Word document as a PDF so that those tabs don't get corrupted and you don't get mistaken for having used poor formatting. Some other things, and I'll talk about that detail thing now. So this is just intentionally a kind of a silly name. It's meant to be off-putting. So if I did a show of hands, people might say, the name's wrong on the first address up there. And the name's actually not wrong. You can use your full name, or you can use a combination of your initials. I go by my middle name, so I have on mine J. Michael Despo, so that I can not correct people all day. My first name's John. I don't put John on my resume for that reason. But your name does need to be in the same kind of font as the rest of the document, not in a script font, not huge in banner size. And then pay close attention to accuracy and grammar in this section. I see a lot of people use shorthand or use incorrect formatting for an address. So be sure the commas are in the right place. In this case, it should be between the city and the state, not the state and the zip code. And then as far as emails go, be sure to use something professional. And I'll even go further than that and say, use something strategic. If I get 50 emails in a morning and I'm looking for your email, it might be helpful to you if I can find it by your name. So jmichaeldespo@gmail.com might be mine. Be sure that you also, as soon as your resume is in play, that your voicemail on your cell phone is activated and maintained. That's also a big pet peeve for a lot of employers or anybody. If I call your cell and the voicemail's full, or even worse, not set up, then that can stand in the way of you getting an offer for an interview or an inquiry. Some other things, good or bad objective statements. Well, first of all, not every resume needs an objective statement. Sometimes if you feel like you're just trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, you might not need it for that application. They can be useful when there aren't any, there's no opportunity to write, and I do mean opportunity to write and submit a cover letter. Cover letters can make an argument where resumes present things strategically but don't really go that next step. An objective can bridge that distance. Now, the reason that so many people don't like them is that so many poorly ones are written, and recruiters, employers feel fatigue when they read over and over again objectives that don't really say anything, or that are selfish and self-centered and looking for what you want out of the job versus what you can bring to the job. So it is a way to customize your resume. If I get an objective that is focused on my workplace, the job that I'm hiring for, maybe the population that I serve, and indicate some interest in joining my team, and then talks about what you can bring and you've gleaned what I'm looking for, and you connect those dots, then and only then can it be useful. So here's a good one. That one's obvious. I mean, here's an example. That's too vague. That's too selfish. This is full of meaningless words, over-the-top adjectives and phrases that sound like platitudes. It really doesn't say anything, although it might read well. And this is really why so many employers are off-put by objectives. Here's a stab at a decent one, seeking specific position with specific company where I can and demonstrate that you know a little bit of something about them. They're proud of this training program that they have and contribute X, Y, and Z. And X, Y, and Z need to align with what I'm looking for in the job description or what you've researched and know would make you a compelling candidate. And then the last thing I'd say is I'd maybe even these days change that objective to summary, which allows you to make a little bit more of an argument. Describe yourself in the third person. So May 2019 IT certification earner or business grad or engineering student or nurse or whatever your area is, and then you can maybe sometimes make a combination of combined an argument for combined experience. If you look at internship, related work experience, and package it like that when you describe yourself, and then it morphs really changes right into an objective about what you can bring. So education goes at the top. I strongly believe that education shouldn't be subordinated, put down at the bottom of a resume. It should never go on the second page of a resume. It should always be near the top, maybe right below that summary or objective, and if there isn't one, then it's the first item on your resume. And be careful to use accurate language for degree. If you're getting a degree in nursing, you're not getting a degree in an associate's degree in health sciences. That's the division. You're getting an associate of applied science in nursing. Use very specific language. If you need to, go to your transcript and go to the website and see how the program describes itself. That's a common mistake. And then the other thing is you can bullet point things like honors and other certifications and GPA if it's really above a 3.0, some say 3.5, and things like that. Many resumes can include certification along with education, but the key there is that it needs to be a related certification. All right, here's an example right here. You see education and certifications are combined. These things, by the way, are tabbed across. So Sylva, North Carolina, May 2016 is tabbed over across there. Never use your space bar in a Word document. That'll create some formatting problems, and it's not a very sophisticated way to move things on a page. So use your tab key, and then you see some related certifications right there. All right. When you think about experience, and I mentioned this, experience or any heading really is an opportunity to put keywords in bold. It's an opportunity to take something that you figured out an employer is looking for and a box that they want to check and put it in bold on your resume, because you really don't want to bold more things than your name and your heading, or you'll overemphasize everything and lose the forest for the trees. And so it's not just employment, it's experience. It's not just experience, it's related experience. It might be management and sales experience or customer service experience or something like that. But brand yourself, brand the type of experience you have in a way that targets the employer. I can't say that too often. So if you didn't have a title when you're talking about your experience, you can use a functionally accurate one. If you worked cleaning houses in Glenville, that's great. Say housekeeper. What I wouldn't do is say waste removal engineer. Don't pad your title with buzzwords to make yourself sound great. Just be plain spoken. Ask yourself if the reader would understand what I mean by this. Use bullet points with action verbs describing things that you've done, accomplished, learned, gained, performed, things like this, and use the correct verb tense for the job. Here's an example. So, and there's on this PowerPoint, there's I think with Google Slides, messed my tabbing up, so don't let that happen to you. It's a good counter example right there. But Bob's Paint Store, Silva, North Carolina, sales associate, italicized, and then across underneath Silva, it should say January 2013 to present. Then bullet points: provide, train, tracked, recognized for performance. So make it read actively. Now, if you're in a technical field with a lot of hard skills or specific technology or instruments that you've learned to use in radiography, for example, or engineering, or if you've learned some complex protocols and processes, make reference to those here so that you sound like the insider that you are in your field. All right, so again, strategic headings, action verbs, and then target your employer. Some other activities: reading, Tennyson High School, president of class, Hollywood High. Now, unless you're still in the early college, in which case high school activities still might matter, although the related ones matter most. The rest of us, or as you matriculate into being a full-time dedicated college student, high school doesn't go on the resume. So typically I won't put where I graduated from high school on the resume unless I've got some compelling reason to do so. So personal stuff, this used to be common. That's a little over the top, but everybody used to put reading, walking, hiking on resumes back in, I'll date myself, but the 80s, maybe even the early 90s, and that has gone by the wayside. So stay away from purely personal activities on a professional resume. So I'll just say that that's a no. Great. Other useful headings to cover: leadership and service. They can be, again, combined. So if you were a leader in a student club and you perform some service in a service learning event or a fundraiser or some other type of activity, then you could combine those and have a section called leadership and service. If you presented a poster at a professional fair here on campus, that would be a presentation. If you belong to a professional society attached to your major or your career, then definitely I would put that on here. Other related activity, undergraduate research or honors projects, computer and language skills can sometimes be combined. Don't overstate your skill. If I've had 2 semesters of Spanish and I've worked hard to be basic, to master basic conversational Spanish, I'll put basic conversational Spanish or conversational Spanish. I will not put fluent unless I'm really fluent in a language. And the same thing goes with computer applications. I wouldn't describe myself as being an expert in Excel unless I really am. So, but you can definitely put those things on there too. And related coursework is the last area that needs a little bit of explanation. If you're applying for a job and you took some classes, and the names of the classes really are congruent and align with the job type of description or something that they're looking for, a skill set or exposure to a different sector within that field, by all means put that related coursework on there, but don't just put your whole transcript on the resume. Related is the key word there. Here's I know that it's, well, you'll be able to see this more on the filmed version, but look at this for symmetry. You see the tabbed across dates and locations. On the left, the primary information is where you worked and your title. You can see how the bullet points represent, and it's really easy for me to see what Max here did in a very active way. I see sales and related experience since he's applying for a job. Remember, in Sherwin-Williams, managing sales and doing some related customer service work in retail management. So that applies. Sales and related experience gets my attention in that case. Leadership, professional activity, and service is his combined heading, covering Habitat for Humanity leadership and service role, a chair on a committee within a club, I think, and a student member of an honor society related to a profession. So you can see how that works, and even related coursework I'm presuming that those 3 or 4 or 5 courses that he chose relate specifically to something in that job description. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about letters as well. I mentioned this before. I said that resumes are an opportunity to provide, strategic dot connecting, to provide select information and to talk about skills in a way that are either directly relevant or at least transferable. Remember those soft skills. But letters are an opportunity to go, a whole big long stride further and make a strong argument as to why I should hire you for this job. And so this is a simple outline for any letter of application, really at any level, from the early college student looking for his or her first job all the way to an executive position or application. So first, make it look like a letter. I'm not a big fan of big headers and fancy kind of font at the top, like some people will try to create basically a graphics type introduction to a letter. Make it look like a formal business letter because that's really what it is. So I'd left justify everything. I'd make it the same font as the resume and same size font as the resume so that it flows. Term papers, research papers, academic assignments are double spaced. Business letters are not. They're single-spaced. You can, it makes it crisp, clean, and compact. You can separate the paragraphs with a full line of space. The salutation begins with dear so-and-so colon. Stay away from gender-specific things like Mrs., MRS. Instead, use MS dot, Mr. Or if it's a person has a terminal degree, it may be a PhD or an EDD, in which case you can say doctor, and it ends with a colon. So dear Mr. Smith or dear Ms. Jones, MS dot, dear Dr. Arnold, colon. And then the next part of the letter is not an introduction, it's a statement of purpose. I am writing you to apply for in the job with this company. It's going to look a lot like that summary or objective, short, focused, strategic, a little bit of a generalization, a sweeping generalization that outlines the rest of the letter. The next paragraph does not have to be long, but it's important. It's what tells me that I'm not one of 500 recipients of this identical letter. If you can simply say some informed reason why you want this job or why you want to work for me. Don't throw platitudes out there. It's not because of my excellent reputation or anything like that. A sophisticated approach would be to say something to demonstrate that you've been to my website or that you're interested in serving the population that I do or that you're interested in working in a size organization located where mine is, or better yet, that you've really looked at the job description and there's something there that really excites you. It makes it clear that you're targeting me, and all other things being equal, I really want to hire the person who wants to work with me and who's informed about my place of employment and the job that you're applying to do. So that's important. It can be short, but it's important. It's the second paragraph of this letter. The third paragraph, really, or 2 paragraphs, is really why it's the meat of the letter, and it's why I should hire you, and certainly talk about any critical hard skills and experiences that you have that make you qualified for the job. Here's also an opportunity for you to go into those personal qualities, those soft skills like reliability, integrity, character, work ethic, use examples, and maybe some of those higher plane soft skills too, like leadership or complex problem solving and things like that, communication skills. So you can talk about both of those things. The end of the letter, people overcomplicate the end of letter of application with frequency. Simply restate your enthusiasm. Again, I want to hire the person who wants the job, all other things being equal. So I would say something like, I would be excited about the opportunity to interview for this job and thrilled to join your team, or something like that. Please let me know if you need more information, and I hope to hear from you soon. Something like that will suffice. Don't go into deep detail or provide a ton more information right at the end. All right, the last really chapter of this conversation, this peak conversation, is references. Occasionally, if if a resume merits going over a page, if there's a lot of information and there's some space on the second page, situationally, I might put highly related references on the second page, remembering that I need to maybe change that list depending on what I'm applying to do. But for the most part, I would have a second page of paper, references for Mike Despo, and then I would have a list of 3 or 4 references. I default to however many are required or requested, but 3 or 4 is the standard or most conventional number for people to provide. Should they be friends, family members, youth group advisors? The answer to that's no. Unless you're applying to work with your church or with a church, then your youth group advisor probably wouldn't be the right person to list as a reference, or a family member. If you're applying to work in a family business, I suppose they know you, but these are not appropriate references typically. So think in terms of people who have had oversight for work that you've done. And that's a simple, easy to understand, foolproof way to establish strong references. So they should be faculty members in classes that you've had, hopefully more than one class. Sometimes you've maybe made a strong enough impression, but in one class, but typically in your major. So you've had them over and over again, and they can say great things about your work ethic. If you're in an organization of any kind, then the advisor of that organization, especially if you were a leader, but even if you were a leader behind the scenes and a contributor and a voice of positivity, and they can say those kinds of things, then maybe, and certainly previous and current direct supervisors, clinical supervisors, and internship supervisors, job supervisors, things like that. Now, if you are in a highly focused profession, healthcare has a lot of these, and you've had a number of clinicals and a number of faculty members, I usually list profession-specific references for those kinds of jobs. Certainly no more than one unrelated. If I worked in a responsible position from which I'm bringing tons of transferable skills, I might list that supervisor or business owner as a reference, but I'd make sure I have those bases covered in terms of clinical supervisors if I was a nurse, or an internship supervisor if I'm an engineer, and a teacher that I worked under if I'm a student teacher of some kind, that type of thing. And be sure to ask them first for several reasons. One, it's a point of courtesy. Courtesy is a soft skill, courtesy in the workplace for sure, and it transfers from our personal practices and our academic experience. Other reasons to ask them first, the first thing I do when somebody asks me to be a reference for them is I say, well, sure. Can you give me your resume and tell me where you're applying, and I'll anticipate a call so it sets them up to give you a better reference. The last reason is, you don't want to be cursed with a lukewarm reference. I would not only ask them first, I would say, Mr. Despo, what kind of reference do you think you could provide for me? And then that's an open question, and it prompts me to tell you, well, in this case, I'd probably give you a really strong one, but maybe not for that type of job. So have this communication with your references. Build and nurture that reference list. It's important. Some last things. We've got, this is spring 2020. You can see us at our mobile station on both campuses. You can see this on our website, this schedule. You can see it on SCC's Career Services Facebook page. And you can also find us in Balsam, in the main enrollment management suite. We're right on the right. We're easy to find. Jody and myself look at tons of resumes all year round, and we'd be glad to help you with yours. And then you can drop in on that. You can drop in on us too. You can also make an appointment by calling 339-4352 or sending us an email. We've got tons of spring events coming up on March 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 17th. We've got some fantastic opportunities for you. You can carry some of this a step further on the 3rd at our professional networking reception. You can go to our website or call to register for that. It's from 11 to 12:30 on the 3rd, and then our March 4th and 5th career fairs. We've got a healthcare career fair on the 4th, and a big broad career fair on the 5th, and a trades and skilled labor and summer fair on the evening of the 17th. We do these kinds of fairs every spring, and we have one in the fall too, so you can always go to the Career Services website to see about upcoming opportunities to share this resume with real employers. And last, that's our contact information. So please, you can go to our website. We've got an entire resume building page there dedicated to providing these resources and for you and a lot of other information. And you can also come and get direct help with your documents and every other aspect of your career development. Thank you very much.